I will say that I was reading some of the reviews of the book, and they are not excellent. Vanity Fair says Melania Trump's new book is truly bad. But what these reviewers don't realize is that it's not just a book. It's also a fragrance. Smells like Slovenian prenup ink. All right. You can take that home.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The American political landscape has been rocked by two seismic revelations that threaten to upend Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign and expose the tangled web of financial entanglements and marital discord lurking behind his carefully crafted public image. But before we continue, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Explosive new intelligence documents detailing Trump's disturbing ties to Vladimir Putin's Russia have surfaced alongside early reviews of Melania Trump's scorching memoir, creating a perfect storm that could permanently alter how voters view the former first family. These dual disclosures peel back layers of deception, revealing a pattern of potential constitutional violations and a marriage that existed more in contractual obligation than romantic partnership. At the heart of the political firestorm are newly authenticated intelligence documents that paint a damning portrait of Trump's financial and political connections to Putin's Russia during his presidency. The Moscow Tower emails provide smoking gun evidence that Trump was actively pursuing real estate deals in Russia while making foreign policy decisions affecting the country, a clear conflict of interest he repeatedly denied under oath. Financial forensic analysts have traced nearly $300 million in suspicious transactions from Russian oligarchs to Trump properties during his White House years, with one vacant $50 million penthouse purchase directly linked to a sanctioned Kremlin energy magnate. Perhaps most alarming are the Helsinki meeting transcripts, which show Trump offering to ease sanctions in what appears to be a quid pro quo for favorable Russian media coverage, a revelation that has constitutional scholars debating potential emoluments, clause violations, and national security experts sounding alarms about compromised decision-making. The timing of these disclosures couldn't be more damaging for Trump, emerging just as he attempts to position himself as a Russia hawk on the campaign trail. Legal analysts note the paper trail could provide critical evidence for multiple ongoing investigations, while foreign policy experts warn the revelations undermine America's strategic position at a time when bipartisan support for Ukraine hangs in the balance. The documents directly contradict Trump's repeated claims of having no business in Russia, exposing what ethics watchdogs describe as a pattern of deception with potentially grave consequences for national security. Simultaneously, Melania Trump's memoir, The Art of Being Alone, has detonated another kind of bomb, one that explodes the carefully constructed myth of Trump's perfect family life. The book's advanced excerpts read less like a first lady's memoir and more like a corporate divorce settlement detailing 3 separate prenuptial renegotiations that ultimately secured her $50 million and guaranteed custody of Barron, her confirmation of the infamous election night tears, not of joy but of despair, an admission that she used a 2018 hospitalization to avoid diplomatic duties with her husband paint a portrait of a woman enduring rather than embracing her role. But it's Melania's Epstein revelations that may prove most politically damaging, as she directly contradicts Trump's timeline about cutting ties with the convicted sex offender. Her claim that she personally banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2002 for inappropriate behavior with her friends shreds Trump's assertion that they'd had a falling out years earlier, a discrepancy that raises troubling questions about what else Trump may have lied about regarding his association with the disgraced financier. The political fallout from these twin revelations creates intersecting crises for Trump's campaign. The Putin papers eviscerate his America First credentials, showing disturbing deference to Russian interests at the expense of national security. Melania's memoir demolishes the family values image crucial to his evangelical base, revealing a transactional marriage kept intact by legal contracts rather than love or shared purpose. Together, they provide opponents with devastating opposition research just as the general election campaign begins in earnest. Trump's erratic response, alternating between rageful denial on Truth Social and clumsy attempts to downplay the significance of the revelations, has only exacerbated the damage. His contradictory statements about both the Putin documents and his wife's book reinforce growing concerns about his credibility and temperament. Political strategists note that these developments strike at the twin pillars of Trump's political identity, his self-proclaimed deal-making brilliance and his carefully cultivated image as a patriarch of perfect family values. As the Biden campaign prepares to weaponize these revelations in upcoming ads and debate preparations, Republican operatives are quietly expressing alarm about the potential impact on key voter demographics. National security-minded Republicans may balk at supporting a candidate with such troubling Russian connections, while suburban women, already skeptical of Trump, may find Melania's portrait of a loveless marriage particularly off-putting. The convergence of these stories represents more than just another bad news cycle for Trump. It threatens to permanently redefine how Americans view both his presidency and personal life. The Putin papers suggest a commander-in-chief potentially compromised by foreign financial interests, while Melania's memoir reveals a first family held together by legal agreements rather than mutual affection. In an era where voters increasingly value authenticity, these disclosures expose the stark contrast between Trump's carefully constructed mythology and the unsettling reality behind the facade. With 6 months until Election Day, these revelations have given Trump's opponents powerful new weapons while forcing his campaign into defensive maneuvers. As legal and political analysts pore over the documents and memoir excerpts, one thing has become abundantly clear. The Trump presidency and marriage were both far more complicated and potentially compromised than the American public was led to believe. The convergence of damning revelations about Trump's Russian ties and Melania's explosive memoir has fundamentally altered the 2024 political landscape, forcing the former president to campaign on treacherous new terrain. These disclosures, authenticated by intelligence agencies and corroborated by Trump's own family, present voters with an inescapable choice between cherished political mythology and uncomfortable reality. While Trump's base has historically dismissed negative reports as fake news, the sheer volume of evidence and its sourcing from within Trump's inner circle makes this dismissal increasingly difficult. The coming months will test whether core supporters can maintain their allegiance when confronted with financial documents suggesting potential constitutional violations and a First Lady's account that contradicts years of carefully crafted messaging. As Election Day approaches, these twin crises threaten to erode Trump's support among crucial voter blocs. National security conservatives unsettled by the Putin connections, and suburban women alienated by the portrait of a transactional marriage. The ultimate question remains whether these revelations have emerged early enough to penetrate the information bubble surrounding Trump's most devoted followers, or if the campaign's misinformation apparatus can once again outpace the truth. What's certain is that Trump now faces the most credibility-challenged campaign of his political career, fighting not just Democratic opponents, but the weight of accumulated evidence against him.
Melania claims that this is not a new position for her. She wrote, "I have carried this belief with me throughout my entire adult life." Guess if you're Melania and you want to contradict your husband, the safest place to do it is in a book where neither he nor any of his supporters will ever see it. This is quite a team he has around him. Trump's new sycophant, RFK Jr., I think we're starting to understand why they get along so well. First, we find out that he was trading sexts with a reporter from New York Magazine, and now Mediaite is reporting that over the past year, RFK had affairs with at least 3 women who worked for the crazy anti-vax 5G Gives You Cancer charity he founded. This guy is very popular with the ladies. Say what you like. I mean...
Hello everyone, Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign is facing its most serious crisis yet as 3 simultaneous scandals converge to expose the fundamental weaknesses in his bid for a second White House term. The former president's carefully constructed political persona is unraveling under the weight of damning new election fraud evidence, his wife's controversial abortion comments, and a growing wave of Republican defections, creating a perfect storm that has triggered one of Trump's most spectacular public meltdowns to date. The crisis began with explosive new revelations from Georgia that have completely undermined Trump's core election fraud narrative. A Republican-led investigation in Coffee County uncovered time-stamped documents proving Trump allies accessed voting systems just days after January 6, while 3 election officials have now confessed under oath to falsifying certification documents. Perhaps most damning are the subpoenaed bank records showing direct payments to so-called alternate electors, a smoking gun that directly connects Trump's inner circle to the election subversion scheme. The former president's response, a 47-post Truth Social tirade accusing Georgia Republicans of being rhinos controlled by China, has legal experts noting multiple statements documents that could be used against him in the ongoing Fulton County prosecution. Just as the election fraud evidence was breaking, Melania Trump dropped an unexpected political bombshell during a rare campaign appearance. Her comment that every woman deserves choice, this is private, represented a direct contradiction of the GOP's hardline anti-abortion platform and immediately sent shockwaves through conservative circles. The fallout was swift and severe. Prominent pro-life groups demanded Trump clarify his position. Fox News hosts awkwardly changed subjects when discussing her remarks, and the campaign was forced to issue a contradictory statement claiming Melania actually supports her husband's pro-life policies. Behind the scenes, sources report Trump initially berated staff for letting her speak before realizing that attacking his own wife would create even worse optics than the abortion controversy itself. The third pillar of Trump's current crisis comes from the increasingly visible cracks in what was once unwavering Republican support. Lindsey Graham, one of Trump's most loyal Senate allies, has suddenly begun criticizing the former president's temperament. Mitch McConnell is quietly diverting funds to Senate candidates who are distancing themselves from Trump. Even Fox News has made the strategic decision to replace some of its most pro-Trump primetime voices with more neutral commentators. This coordinated retreat stems from internal GOP polling, showing Trump becoming an increasing liability down the ballot, a reality that has party leaders scrambling to limit the damage. What makes this triple crisis uniquely dangerous for Trump is how it attacks the very foundations of his 2024 campaign strategy. The Georgia election fraud evidence destroys his carefully cultivated martyr narrative about the stolen 2020 election. Melania's abortion comments highlight the impossible position Trump finds himself in, torn between the hardline base that demands strict anti-abortion policies and the general election voters who overwhelmingly support reproductive rights. And the growing Republican defections reveal that even his own party no longer believes he can win in November. The fallout has been immediate and chaotic. Trump's campaign has abruptly canceled 3 scheduled rallies in critical swing states. 2 senior communications staffers have been fired amid reports of internal finger-pointing. Most tellingly, sources claim Trump has personally reached out to Tucker Carlson, begging his former Fox News ally to return as a campaign surrogate. Political analysts note this meltdown differs from previous Trump scandals in several key ways. First, the election fraud evidence comes from Republican sources and directly contradicts claims Trump has been making for nearly 4 years. Second, Melania's abortion stance creates a rare rift within Trump's typically disciplined family messaging. Third, the GOP defection suggests party leaders may finally be willing to sacrifice Trump to save their congressional majorities. As the general election campaign begins in earnest, Trump faces an existential choice. He can double down on his election lies and hardline positions, risking alienation of moderate and independent voters, or he can attempt a pivot toward the center, potentially angering the hardcore base that demands total loyalty. Early signs suggest he's opting for chaos, lashing out in all directions while his campaign infrastructure shows signs of strain. The unfolding scandals surrounding Donald Trump's Russian financial ties and Melania's revelatory memoir represent more than just campaign headaches. They've become an existential test for the modern Republican Party. These revelations force GOP leaders to confront an uncomfortable question. Can they finally break free from the Trump personality cult they helped create, or will they go down with a sinking ship? The conservative movement now faces its moment of truth, caught between mounting evidence of Trump's ethical breaches and the radicalized base that remains fiercely loyal to him. The implications ripple far beyond one election cycle. Fox News and right-wing media empires built on amplifying Trump's false narratives now face their own credibility crisis, as damning documents contradict years of their propaganda. Republican voters must perform mental gymnastics to reconcile their partisan identities with overwhelming proof of their leaders' foreign entanglements and marital hypocrisy. Even Trump's closest allies show signs of panic. Establishment Republicans quietly divert funds to down-ballot candidates, while MAGA loyalists scramble to explain why the America First president allegedly courted Russian money while in office. A veteran GOP strategist's ominous warning, the rats aren't just leaving the ship, they're setting it on fire on their way out, captures the party's spiraling dysfunction. Some Republicans hope these scandals might finally break Trump's stranglehold, allowing the party to pivot toward a post-Trump future. Others fear the base's cult-like devotion will override all evidence, dragging the GOP to catastrophic midterm losses. With 6 months until voters render judgment, Trump's signature survival skills faced their ultimate test. The man who famously boasted he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue without losing supporters now discovers some stains won't buff out. Not when they involve alleged constitutional violations and a first lady's tell-all confirming his presidency was as transactional as his marriages. Whether this convergence of crises marks Trump's political demise or just another chapter in his Teflon legend depends less on the facts than on whether Republicans finally value democracy over devotion to a flawed leader. One thing remains undeniable. After years of avoiding accountability, the bill for Trump's scandals may finally be coming due, and the entire GOP must decide if they're willing to pay it.
Donald and Melania are very, very much in love. You can see here they had a very sweet moment.
Doubled as an effective... Denied by the hat. Now we know why the brim is so big.
When Melania Trump stepped out in that powder blue Ralph Lauren ensemble with the matching pillbox hat for her husband's 2017 inauguration, no one could have predicted the fashion firestorm that would ensue. But as the late-night comedy host demonstrated that evening, when given the chance to mock both the Trumps' questionable style choices and their even more questionable politics, they would seize it with both satirical hands. The resulting commentary created one of the most memorable inaugural comedy roasts in recent memory, with Melania's hat serving as the perfect visual metaphor for everything absurd about the incoming administration. Jimmy Kimmel led the charge with what would become the defining joke of the evening. Melania Trump showed up looking like a sexy flight attendant from the 1960s. He quipped to roaring applause. That hat is what happens when you ask for Jackie Kennedy at the dollar store. The comparison was brutal but undeniable. Melania's stiff, oversized pillbox looked like a poor imitation of Kennedy's iconic 1961 inaugural look. Kimmel didn't stop there, suggesting the outfit was what you wear when your husband becomes president but you wish he hadn't, a reference to the widely circulated reports that Melania had cried upon learning of Trump's election victory. Stephen Colbert took a more political angle, noting how the light blue color matched neither the traditional red of the GOP nor Melania's apparent mood. "That's the blue of someone who just realized she has to live in Washington now," he joked. "It's the exact shade of I thought we were just doing this to get a better table at Le Cirque." Colbert's writers had clearly done their homework, flashing a side-by-side comparison showing Melania's hat was nearly identical to one worn by a background extra in The Handmaid's Tale, a not-so-subtle commentary on fears about reproductive rights under Trump. Over at The Daily Show, Trevor Noah marveled at how the hat seemed to swallow Melania's head whole. "That's not a hat, that's a satellite dish picking up signals from her home planet," he said. "You can tell she's uncomfortable. She's wearing that thing like it's a court-ordered monitoring device." Noah's joke played into the persistent narrative that Melania was an unwilling participant in her husband's political ambitions, a theme several hosts would revisit throughout their monologues. But it was Samantha Bee on Full Frontal who delivered the most scathing critique, using the hat as a jumping-off point for a broader indictment of Melania's complicity. "That blue pancake on her head is the perfect symbol for this administration," Bee declared. "Overpriced, out of touch, and vaguely European in a way that makes Americans uncomfortable." She then launched into a brutal segment contrasting Melania's $50,000 ensemble with the struggles of federal workers who would soon face government shutdowns under Trump's leadership. The hat jokes revealed several key truths about how comedians viewed the incoming First Lady. First, they saw her fashion choices as fair game, precisely because she had positioned herself as a style icon rather than a policy advocate. Second, the relentless focus on her apparent misery served as a proxy for criticizing Trump himself. By highlighting Melania's discomfort, they underscored the fundamental unnaturalness of the Trump presidency. Finally, the sheer absurdity of devoting so much comic energy to a hat spoke to the surreal nature of the Trump era itself, where the line between serious politics and pure spectacle had been completely erased. Interestingly, the late-night reaction foreshadowed many themes that would dominate coverage of Melania's tenure as First Lady. The jokes about her emotional distance anticipated her "I really don't care, do you" jacket controversy. The focus on her fashion as distraction predicted her tone-deaf safari outfit during a visit to Africa, and the constant speculation about her marriage laid groundwork for the endless analysis of her body language at official events. In retrospect, that silly blue hat was more than just a fashion faux pas. It was the first clear sign of how Melania Trump would be portrayed in popular culture, as a walking contradiction, at once glamorous and awkward, regal and ridiculous, present and absent. The late-night hosts, with their keen eye for absurdity, recognized this immediately and used that recognition to craft some of the most memorable political comedy of the Trump era. Melania Trump's much-mocked blue pillbox hat served as more than just a fashion faux pas. It became a cultural pressure valve for a nation grappling with the surreal reality of a Trump presidency. Late-night hosts from Kimmel to Colbert seized on the sartorial misstep as a safe conduit for expressing deeper anxieties about America's new commander-in-chief. Their jokes, while seemingly superficial, performed vital cultural work, allowing millions to process their shock through laughter when Donald Trump, a figure long treated as a punchline, suddenly occupied the Oval Office. The hat's exaggerated Jackie Kennedy homage perfectly symbolized the Trump administration's clumsy attempts at presidential gravitas, while its awkward proportions mirrored the First Lady's visible discomfort in her role. Kimmel's quip about the Museum of Bad Decisions proved prescient. 3 years later, as Melania departed Washington, many viewed the entire Trump presidency through that same lens of tragicomic absurdity. What began as jokes about an unflattering accessory ultimately revealed how humor became both weapon and coping mechanism during one of America's most politically divisive eras, with a simple blue hat serving as the perfect metaphor for an administration that never quite fit the office it occupied. Hope you enjoyed the video and do not forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section. Until next time, thanks for watching.